What is going on, you guys? My name is Rayge, and we are back today with a huge 100% free-to-play account and roster review of my player profile overall, where my teams are right now, and what I'm planning for the future. So that being said, you guys, it's very exciting. It's been over a couple years now that I've been playing 100% free-to-play, so hopefully this video can give you some perspective and input, especially if you guys are transitioning to the mid-game or starting out and hoping to see what the late-game teams look like. That's definitely what I'm planning to go through today, especially the ones I can see having the most value. But as well, I'm nearing that 3-year mark here, being 900 days logged in. As you can see, Scopely still super generous with the rewards: 25 cores, the 6k red fragments, and 10k gold fragments. Jokes aside, hopefully they do rework this in the future, so that way players that have been long-standing in the game do in fact get some appreciation for how long they've played with their dedication and so forth. But that's not what today's video is about. Today's video, we're going to be going through all of my current modes right now that I'm involved in. That includes Arena, the Doom Raids, Dark Dimension, as well as going through the best teams that I'm utilizing for War, and as well as Cosmic Crucible, so that way you guys can get a really conclusive picture of where my account stands. And like I said, hopefully this video is able to assist you guys in your journey as you grow your account and build towards teams that you're potentially looking to consider. So before we even dive into any of the game modes, I like to start things off by just showing you guys my player profile here. As I said, 100% free to play, so you're looking at a completely clean account here that's not been tampered by any money. 13.1 million. I know it's taken a lot of time, but this is a very honest and hard-working account. Collection power here, strong team power, the best one being 950k. And keep in mind that actually counts my 5 best characters, so not the one that's shown on screen here. My dark hold is actually keeping me strong in the meta right now for the arena battles, but even then, those 5 characters only amount to 650k, so quite a big drop off from this notable 950 that is taking the 5 best of my roster here. All-time arena rank, I've gone to rank arena 8, but that was quite a while ago. My latest has been 28, so Darko's been keeping me in the game. Definitely with the arena team. Funny enough, I actually have not invested in these guys ever since I stayed within this top 30, top 40 range, just because they've been doing the job just well, and I haven't seen a really significant break as well. The key reason I'm staying in this bracket is because I like where I'm staying right now in terms of the 21 to 50 mark and really maximizing on those 200 power cores. I find the 11 to 20 can be quite competitive, and some days I just don't have time to do the arena battle. So I mean, this is a very comfortable place for me to be, and so far so good. You know, the Dark Hole's been keeping me in play there for sure. That wraps up the arena side. I mean, I try to stay put there, but if you have a pretty decent Dark Hole team, they're going to be able to retain their value there, and they've been doing really good just holding their own. Doom 2 Raids. Doom 2 Raids is the big component because this is one of the few aspects of the game that can unlock the Teal Gear fragments, right? So consistently our alliance has been doing Doom 2.3 at 60%, and we've been pretty good, and we coast pretty well just when we're going through the nodes. But specifically for me, I actually go through the left side here, starting with Bio, and Web Warriors just makes an absolute joke of this. Next up, the Secret Avengers combined with Shang-Chi and as well as Castro easily clears the skill section, so that's what works out for me. You see their breakdown later on when I show you my roster overhaul, and you can just see how strong they actually are built up. Next up for tech, this is usually the ones I have the most issues with, just because there's not really a clear-cut and one-and-done strategy here just going through it, but I do have a lot of tech characters that I can utilize now, especially now bringing up T'Challa. Shuri's been very, very useful. So, I mean, fortunately, there are some really good, strong characters like Kestrel and Dr. Doom that can also be utilized, but it's just difficult because the RNG involved, the luck, sometimes the waves can wipe. It's definitely the trickiest in my opinion. Then next up we have Mystic, and it's a joke. If you actually have the Eternals built up with new warriors, those 5 characters can absolutely just blow past all these nodes, and you can pretty much one-shot all the attempts. And last but not least, the Astonishing X-Men with Jubilee leading the charge. All of them are the only feasible mutant team that can actually get through it. So we've done Doom 2.3 100% a few times already for those new alliance mates that joined, but generally now it's pretty smooth sailing in Doom 2.3. So that's why I am looking forward to the next Doom raids. But those are the teams that have helped me, you guys. So you'll definitely see how strong they are once I show you my full account roster. Dark Dimension 5. Actually, right now, I'm pushing through Dark Dimension 5 right now through the Cosmic node. So, I mean, I've wrapped up the first 3 untraded. I've wrapped up City, as well as Global, and now the Cosmic section is where I'm at, and afterwards I am going to be waiting for the Legendary Garrett, but you'll see the characters once I show you guys my roster as well, which ones have the teal gear and pushing through that. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it for the main game modes that I'm part of, right? Alliance and War, I'm not really too heavily involved in it, but I can high level show you guys who I have on defense. It's not too heavy just because our alliance isn't really too active, but even then, we still win about 2 out of the 3 wars every week. So, I mean, we're still a really good team, even despite me not having a really good war. But here, I'll show you guys who I have on defense, so that way you can get some perspective of what I have right now, and as well I'll show you guys what I'm using for my best teams here for offense, because you can just assume whoever's not here is being used for offense capabilities. But you can see not much going on here. The big one's been the Young Avengers, definitely, just because of as of late I've been prepping them for the Scourge, but I'll just move them over here. Actually, I kind of like them deeper, so that way when the enemies are attacking, they won't see them right away. But yeah, these are my teams right now that I'm using on defense. Big ones being the Heroes for Hire, and even then, Shang-Chi is really the big one for that, carrying that load. I got a mix of Inhumans, mixed with Shuri for some defensive capabilities. New Warriors, they're mixing it up with the negative conditions, having Invisible Women, Loki giving them a speed boost. And then otherwise, there's some makeshift teams that are going on here, like Dr. Octopus mixed up with Emma Frost to provide some sustain, but I don't have the Sinister Six built up too much. And even then, I still have this Wave 1 Avengers team that soaks up damage. I got this mixture of the Guardians of the Galaxy combined with Minerva and Ghost. So not too much crazy things going on here, just because I am more focused on the offensive side than defense. And generally, we can clear more than, defense. It's not a big deal. But yeah, those are the teams I have right now, and it's the reason why some of the teams aren't built up. So, for instance, that Sinister Six team. Because really, I only found value with Dr. Octopus, and I didn't feel the need to bring up every other character. And that could be the reason why my resources, as you guys can see on screen here, I'm doing really good in terms of gold, power core management. Never really found an issue in this game with those two respectfully, just because I try not to use what I don't need. And really for me, it's understanding what the needs are of the game, right? Especially with these events coming out and so forth, these month-long events and all these teams coming out, you really do need to know who to invest in. And that's why you'll see that the majority of my roster is going to have characters that are built up for specific reasons that are more than just about one game mode. So before I even dive into some of my best characters here, I just want to bring to your attention here, generally what I'd like to do is I always add a heart to the 2 teams or the 1 team that needs to get either worked on or teams I need to be aware of based on these events. So we know the Summer of Thunder is here. We know this new Asgardians Heroes team is potentially going to be a Scourge team for the next Scourge event, and as well the Unlimited X-Men also being a requirement for Apocalypse. So I have all them flagged right now because they are worth my attention in terms of if I want to invest in them, if I want to bring them up, they're going to be readily available if I do want to do that. That doesn't mean necessarily that I will bring them up. As you can see, a lot of them are really weak still. I'm bringing up only a couple right now, and I'm being very mindful of my high roller milestones. But generally, this helps kind of keep me on track in terms of, hey, like, how am I doing for these so-called teams that are going to be required for other events? Doesn't necessarily mean I will invest in them. As you can see, the majority of them are quite weak, and I haven't really put attention to them yet. But that said, that helps me kind of focus, and especially the big one being Rogue coming out very soon. Likely, I'm planning to bring her into Dark Dimension 5, so she's going to be definitely one of those X factors for me if I can get her and then bring her in for the legendary notes, just because she is mutant and she's newer than Phoenix, so I do like that aspect. But otherwise, we can start kind of taking a look at some of my strongest and most powerful characters. The majority of them having high red stars, and if they are brought up to Dark Dimension 5, that's the main reason why they're as powerful as they are. So, I mean, some oddballs here that stand out. Definitely Shang-Chi, one of the best characters in the game, and the fact that he actually is available in the Blitz store. That's something to be notable for, especially if you're new to player, transition mid-game. Absolutely, please purchase him in the Blitz store. Purchase him every day, max him out, because anytime you have a character in the Blitz store specifically, and if they're good, it's almost a one and done deal. That you need to. It's an absolute must-have to invest in them based on how much value. Shang-Chi, you can use them in all game aspects as well. Another team worth noting is the Secret Avengers. I brought them on to my global nodes for Dark Dimension 5, which means you can likely bring them for Dark Dimension 3 and Dark Dimension 4. They have amazing value in the Doom 2 raids, And as well, I have a feeling that they're going to be used heavily in the next Doom 3 raid. So we'll see how that goes. But the fact that they have specific bonuses and buffs specific for Doom, and specifically for raids in general, the value there is always going to maintain in the game unless another and better team comes out. Another good one is actually Squirrel Girl. I like the sustain that she brought on, but she's just a really good character overall. Her Young Avengers team is one of the best teams in War, and as well, she has amazing value in Cosmic Crucible now, especially that being a prevailing game mode to get teal gear. So definitely these one and done characters I definitely highly recommend, because you don't need their full team to come up and to add value to your other game aspects. And then as well, you can see just some of the other characters that are not in other teams that I've built up is Omega Red, one of the best legendaries in the game. Just the fact that every one of his attacks scales with health percentage, and I brought him for Dark Dimension 5, and he's been absolutely essential. Just how much damage he can do and the crowd control has been huge. Those are the obvious no-brainers, right? If you're starting off the game as well and you're taking a look, I think legendary-wise, sure, he's one of the best legendaries in the game. It's worth noting that she already had value beforehand, but having the reworks and having her Wakandans get additional value in Cosmic Crucible and War, it's been huge for their team just to get that rework. And the previous investments now are definitely worth it for sure. Not farmable in the game, but one of the best characters in the game for sure is Kestrel. And she's available through Orb, so definitely try to get your hands on her if you can. She's just used in all game modes, and the sooner you get her, the more value you're going to get inside the game, especially since she can be slotted in and used in all game modes, and as well as the late game. And I'm still using her every day, especially in the Doom 2 raids, right? But as I scroll down here, you guys will see that, there's some really common themes, right? The Web Warriors, very, very strong, powerful team, Doom 2 raids, but they were used in the first Scourge event. Miles Morales specifically, he's going to be used in the second Scourge event, being part of the Young Avengers too. So I mean, I like the fact that he has dual value there, so a really strong, notable addition. The Eternals combination of Cersei and Icarus, definitely two very powerful characters. As you can see, I teal geared them for the Cosmic Nodes, so very powerful characters in the game, even despite the rest of the Eternals not being in the game. Those two are definitely god level characters that you need to get your hands on, and especially since they're not farmable yet, but hopefully in the future, definitely a must-have for in your roster if you can get your hands on them. Another big one, you'll see that the remnants of my symbiote roster team is here. Main reason is because I used them in Dark Dimension 2, 3, 4, and they've always had value, right? But because of the Web Warriors coming out now, a lot of players likely will shift away from symbiotes, so that's why you'll see them higher up. They're still a really good team for me to be used in War, Cosmic Crucible, so forth, but honestly speaking, I don't know how much more value they'll have in the future, just because of them not really being a must-have in Dark Dimension 5, and that kind of broke away from that, right? So if you guys are watching this before you start the Dark Dimension 3, Dark Dimension 4 stages, it may be a good idea to invest in other city characters, specifically Cloak and Dagger being very powerful now in the meta, and if you can get your hands on them, they're going to just provide a lot more value. Another big one that changed for me recently was Lady Deathstrike. I only recently invested in her because she's officially farmable now, so you can go ahead and actually farm her Mystic 3-6, which isn't too late game, still in the mid game transition, but definitely a top 10 character in the game when combined with Omega Red and the rest of the Weapon X team. So those two are the only two that are built up from Weapon X for me personally, just because again I'm not involved in War, but the amazing value she has really good sustain, and I also used her in the global nodes for Dark Dimension, and she's been an absolute must-have, so it's been very, very crucial to have her. So I'll slowly scroll down, but you'll just see a lot of remnants of the teams built up that are already kind of part of all the meta stages, right? Another strong one that's farmable as well now is Silver Surfer. He is quite costly to bring up. I was really glad I could use him in the club nodes, specifically for the Gambit raids. But again, because he's farmable now in the game, I highly, highly recommend. He's still a very powerful character, but just the power creep and the other number of characters that you can prioritize before him is kind of what weakened his value there. But another one is you see Proxima Midnight Ebony Maw being up here higher up, and that's because the Black Order used to be the meta. But overall, their team can still be used in some areas of the game, but I wouldn't recommend Black Order anymore. The big one is the Young Avengers, especially with them now going to be looking forward to the second Scourge event. They just have so much usage in the game, and I should have invested in them beforehand, but them having the rework, and then as well as adding Echo and Kate Bishop. Those two really rounding out the new Young Avengers now. It's a very, very powerful team combination. So those are the obvious ones to me as I'm scrolling down here, guys. And you'll just start seeing some outliers here, right? That may or may not be part of the meta anymore. And that includes characters such as Dr. Octopus here. When at the time when he came out, a very powerful legendary, but he's really losing his place in the game because he's a good tech character to have. He can soak damage, but in Doom 2, he's not that useful. In Dark Dimension 5, he's pretty sluggish and not that useful as well. So unfortunately, I wouldn't recommend him anymore. Hela used to be a very top staple in the game too. Maybe she'll get a rework in the future, but I also would not recommend bringing her up just because she's really costly. And in my earlier Dark Dimension videos, I used her in Dark Dimension 3 and Dark Dimension 4, but now she's kind of stagnant because her stats kind of fall pretty heavy off the board now, and as well as her just not having a relevant team no longer in the game. The big one again here now as we're scrolling down here that I recently reworked that I would recommend is actually the Ravagers. If you like War, the fact that they're pretty useful in Cosmic Crucible when you have their full team, but I really like T'Challa because I brought him for Dark Dimension and he was a really nice character to have for Cosmic. Pretty cheap overall. He's got a blind. He's a bit squishy, but when combined with Yondu in other game modes, especially when the Gambit raid came out, those two were really good and we worked in tandem with each other. Those two are the only ones that are built up for my Ravagers, but if you guys are heavy in War, they're one of the best teams in War right now as well. So I mean, that combination can be definitely deadly if you guys are looking for a powerful team. And then otherwise, it really tails off after all those top metas that you see up there. Afterwards, Ghost remains one of the powerful characters that I had before all these reworks and new teams because I did use her in Dark Dimension 3 and Dark Dimension 4 based on her utility. And honestly speaking, she has value in the Doom raids if you bring her up high enough, and as well as Dark Dimension 5 because she is cheap. But I wouldn't recommend it just because her stats really fall off in the game. And even if you have her at a 6 red or 7 red, she's still really, really squishy. So I wouldn't recommend it, but she's cheap. She's definitely a cheap staple if you have the gear and materials and investment. And then otherwise, you'll see the end of my Darkhold team here, as well as my Young Avengers, just because Wong, Echo, Kate Bishop, Agatha Harkness, they're all part of the meta, but you can see with their star levels, right? They're exceptionally low right now, and that's why they are where they are right now in terms of their power levels. So although they're in the bottom here, they're actually doing really, really well with their respective areas, especially in the arena that's keeping me afloat, and the Young Avengers that I'm planning to bring on to the second Scourge. So I mean, otherwise, all these other characters here, I just haven't built up because I don't feel like there's other aspects of the game where I need them, unless it's specifically one game mode such as War or Cosmic Crucible. For me, then that's really helped me kind of manage my resources because I've understood what my priorities are overall, and that's the key, guys. Really understanding which aspects of the game matter to you, and that's ultimately going to help kind of streamline your progress. So that was really a high-level overview of the best characters and teams going on in my roster, but I also did group it and organize it a little better in my Cosmic Crucible. So Cosmic Crucible wise, especially going through these milestones now for the Summer of Thunder here, I can show you guys my defense real quick as well as my best teams, but nothing really to scream home about, just because I try to utilize a lot of the synergies here and using some balance of defense, but as well as having a very, very powerful offensive combination of teams that allow me generally 9 times out of 10 to clear all the rooms. So I got the Black Order on time tamping on the last stage here. I got my Web Warriors made up of 2 Dark Dimension 5 ready characters on the Cosmic Catastrophe stage. Then I got my Young Avengers on defense. Very, very powerful there. I got my a mixture here actually of the new Warriors and Emma Frost, Mr. Sinister defensive capabilities on this defensive reversal stage. I got T'Challa, Shuri, and Yondu mixed up with Yo-Yo and Black Bolt on this defensive pairing here. And then lastly, I just have a random cluster of plug-and-play characters that don't really have the rest of the teams built up. So they're just there to really pump muscle off and try to scare away enemies from attacking. Now that leaves now all the defensive teams. You can assume that whoever's not here is going to be on offensive, and I can show you guys who that is as well. But that said, these teams have generally been really, really good for me. Overall, I've found that, like I said, I generally don't have an issue clearing the rooms just because I have so many powerful teams I can use. So I do have this kind of sorted based on synergy, and then as well as the mixtures of different teams. So first and foremost, my Darkhold is hands down the best team I got. I can use them almost to wipe out any other team. The only thing I haven't been able to beat is Dormhold, which is basically the Darkhold mixed with Dormammu in there, and that's been very hard to beat. So for me, I just hope I don't play against those in the future, but they're really tough. Next up, the Infinity Watch team. Still a very, very safe team to build, you guys. I don't care what people are saying out there falling out of the meta. They're still relevant. They're a top 3, top 5 synergy team in the game, and they can beat a lot of teams outside of war. The big one I use them for is the Heroes for Hire, but they can beat a lot of teams outside of war in other game modes because of the benefits they get from each other. So a very powerful team regardless. And most of the characters, especially Nebula and Gamora, you can get them really early in the game, and most of them now are farmable. So outside of Adam Warlock, they're a really good team to have, especially if you can have them for a long haul in terms of the milestones, and as well as just pushing your account further in your progression. Symbiotes, still a very powerful team for me. They take advantage of turn meter, so having them on offense, especially when I see that an enemy has Hela or some kind of minion, that works as a huge advantage for me personally, just because I can take advantage of that. They get multiple attacks, and they have really good synergy. Next up, the Web Warriors. Just about the same strength as my symbiotes, and they're really, really good. I have them on defense, but like I said, they're a staple for the Doom 2 raids, a must-have, and they're very powerful. I highly recommend building these guys as your city staple for Doom raids. Next up, Astonishing X-Men. Like I said earlier, these guys are the staple and must-have for Doom 2, and the fact that they have such a great synergy that can be used in all other game modes makes them a very powerful team. Yes, they can be quite a little bit squishy at times, but they also have that turn meter where when the enemy goes down, they can almost get their turn right back. So I mean, that just has so much advantages against so many teams when you're playing it the right way, especially when it's up against that turn meter. Young Avengers, like I said, one of my newest teams I've built up in preparation for the Scourge, and I really love the value they're bringing right now, especially them being very powerful in Cosmic Crucible, and I'm excited to unlock Rogue with them and can't wait to see how they're going to be doing in this upcoming Scourge. Then we have some random cluster teams on my best characters that I mentioned earlier, right? Maybe I'll just touch on the ones I didn't mention. Doctor Doom, Phoenix, still top 5, top 10 characters in the game, just based on their powerful impact. Especially Phoenix, she's cheap to bring up the Dark Dimension, and it's not a one and done approach because you can still combine her with Magic and the other X-Men to build up that Uncanny team. But for me, I just don't have them built up. But if you guys have that roster and team built up, highly recommend. They still have value in War. Like I said earlier, the Eternals, New Warriors, very, very powerful. This is the team that gets me through my Doom 2 for the Mystic nodes, and these guys will just punish enemies, especially with the synergy of Deathpool having her passive attacks. Similarly to Kestrel, she's farmable in orbs right now. Hopefully she becomes more farmable, but definitely a top 5, top 10 character in the game, and highly would recommend you guys can get your hands on her. The mixture of the Secret Avengers with Kestrel and Nick Fury, just for obvious reasons, they have the shield synergy. They're a really powerful team, and they have a lot of buffs and benefits, and I find that they do really well against other enemy teams, especially when you have Captain Sam built up the way he is with his turn meter and his defense up and energy granting. And then lastly, we have those stragglers I mentioned earlier a little bit, right? Maybe the ones I didn't talk about was Minerva, just because I used her in Dark Dimension as well, so she's always been built up higher. She's got a revive in the game, which is still rare for a lot of characters. They don't have revives, but she's very, very squishy, so that's the unfortunate downside. And then lastly here, the Black Order, I wouldn't really recommend building them anymore, just because they're really used as a plug-and-play team for me. If they can be a team, great. If not the end of the world. But I wouldn't recommend building it up anymore unless they get a rework or something in the future, just because there's just so many teams that can beat them now, and they're really just a filler team if you can. And they still have some synergies, but definitely not in the top of the meta anymore, so likely it'll be a risk factor to use them. So there you guys have it. That's my complete roster overview of the best characters and teams, the ones I recommend. Again, earlier as noted, if I were to tell you guys 3 teams to definitely build, it's gonna be the Darkhold team. I feel like they're gonna have value in the long term, just because of how powerful they are hands down right now. I think the Web Warriors are a really solid team, all rounders, and the fact that they're needed in the first Scourge, and who knows, Morgan Le Fay coming back, you might have to have the same requirements, right? So that's definitely something important to be mindful of. Secret Avengers, New Eternals, and the New Warriors, the other 3 teams I highly recommend. just because of their value overall. And I see them still being in the game for quite a long time, even despite what other people have said. And as well, let's not forget about the Infinity Watch team, you know, starting with Gamora and Nebula. They're still having a lot of mileage right now in the game, and they're super powerful, so I still would recommend them. They're my top 2, top 3 team to use for crushing enemies' defenses. So there you guys have it. I hope you guys enjoyed this thorough video. Hopefully this is able to help you guys build your roster, and as you transition further into the mid and end game, you can get some perspective from an end game player. Thank you as always, you guys. Do appreciate you checking my videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.